To slow decline levels.
You don't need to push it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good. Pushing around 5,000, 15,000, 30,000, 5,000.
All right, I swear there's only one announcement today, just one. There's going to be another meetup game, hoping to make this a more regular thing at Maryland Live, running September 30th, giving you guys a lot more warning this time. So if you're interested in coming in from a little further out of town and you are looking at maybe staying overnight a night or something like that, definitely reach out and let me know. I will be putting a Facebook event down in the description below so you can RSVP there, giving me a sense of how many people are going to show up. But September 30th, we're going to start in the afternoon, hopefully go at least, a number of hours, possibly get some food and some beverages during and after. And yeah, should be a good time. The first one was great. I'll try to leave a card up around here somewhere, letting you guys see the video from the last time, but it was a blast. I think most of the people who were there would agree. And yeah, let's hope to see you there. So diving right into day 3 of the monster stack, I bagged pretty good. I had 659K coming into the day, and it was fast and furious right away. I really got involved quickly, and frankly, a lot of these hands are going to involve all-ins, so they're going to be kind of quick. Just kind of bear with me. This is exactly how the day felt for me, and a lot of times the action that I had to take was sort of dictated by my stack size and the stack sizes of people around me. That being said, there are some hands that I probably could have played differently, but hard to really question it at this point, just because, I felt I was playing well at the time for what I was trying to accomplish, and that was, trying to go for the win. So we're sitting here with 5K, 10K blinds, and 1K ante. I've got about 650K at this point, and it's very early in the day, basically first or second orbit. The big blind is currently not at the table. He has not shown up yet, so it plays a lot into this hand right now. The hijack, who has just sat down, raises to 20K, and I'm on the button with King Queen offsuit. I have a lot of options here. He has about 220K to start the hand, so 22 bigs. The person in the small blind has a lot of bigs, so I don't want to just jam, but I could 3-bet to a sort of committing size. I could 3-bet small, or I could just flat. Because of the dead big blind, I felt that he'd be attacking pretty wide, so I decided to 3-bet to 65K. Folds back around to him, and the hijack now just jams 220K, really without thinking too much. And I didn't really think he'd ever do that so quickly without a pretty weak hand, like a hand that he's willing to go with, but not aces, not kings, probably not even ace king or queens, jacks, tens. So I didn't really put him on a strong hand. I didn't think that long, and I kind of called it off because I think I'm going to have enough equity at this point with the dead money in the middle. Sure enough, he has pocket fives, but the board runs out 6-4 ace 2 brick. And he wins that flip. He slams the table in celebration, in victory, and he's going to win a pretty crucial hand right away to knock me down to about 40 bigs. Now sitting at 350K, and the big blind was busted out from a previous hand, which means we have a dead small blind, but I didn't realize this in the moment. So under the gun actually opens to 22K, folds around to me, and I'm in the hijack with black pocket aces, and I think that I'm opening it up to 22K, when in fact I am calling. The big blind comes along as well, and it's not really till the board is coming out that I figure out what's going on, and it's very clear that I didn't really know what was happening. I thought I'd opened, and it was very clear I was not angling, let's put it that way. That being said, I obviously look strong with this whole exchange, and when the board comes out 6-3-3, big blind checks, under the gun now bets 70K, which with 70K behind. So he bets half his stack, and it was sort of silly. I didn't think that there was going to be a whole lot I could do to not look super strong. I considered flatting, but I thought he's never really getting away from the biggish overpairs. So I just decided to go all in. and it folded back around onto the gun. He tanked for quite a while, but eventually just folded. So I might have won the maximum playing it the way I did, but he also could have had something like ace queen, king queen, and maybe not even folded pre-flop. So kind of lucky to get a 70k bet in on the flop, I think. Now at the 6k, 12k level, we have a 2k ante in play, and I'm sitting on about 500k. In the previous hand, I raised folded for middle position, which I think is relevant because raising and then folding to a 3-bet at this stage of the tournament definitely, I think people notice. So I now wake up with pocket nines, next hand, early position, and I bump it up to 27k. The cutoff is a pretty competent player, most likely a pro, and jams in 200k. Folds back around to me, and I'm not excited about it, but based on the previous hand and based on what's gone on so far, I think it's a little bit too nitty to just fold here. I call it off. He has ace king, but the board comes ace, 7, deuce, brick, brick. I did have some backdoor hearts going on the flop, but it was a non-heart turn, and no 9 on the river for us. So knocked back down a peg, and as you can see, a lot of all-in hands, a lot going on already. In the next hand, I have 400k. The hijack, who's been pretty quiet, open jams 115,000, which is, under 10 bigs. I wake up in the cutoff with black pocket nines, and I just rejam. I don't think there's kind of much option here. Ends up folding around, and unfortunately the hijack has pocket kings and flops a set on ace, king, deuce. Again, I have a couple of backdoor things going on. Well, just the backdoor flush draw going on. But I brick the turn, and I'm drawing dead for the river anyway, so that's a brick too. Now sitting on 300k, and the cutoff opens to 28k. This is the player who got in with pocket fives against my king queen in the very first hand of the day. I'm in the small blind with queen jack offsuit, and at this stack depth, I think that I can just jam. I'm going to get tons of folds from his range. He's definitely active, so I just stick it in there. Unfortunately, the big blind tanks forever and rejams for about 300,000 more than what I've got, and the cutoff folds. The big blind has pocket nines, and the board is 6, 4, deuce, jack, 10. So pretty important flip. Didn't look like I was going to win it for a little bit there, but back in it with 600k after that hand. In this next hand, we have moved up again in blinds to the 8k, 16k level, still at a 2k ante, and I've got 590k in my stack. Under the gun opens to 32k. The hijack actually basically clicks it up to 75k, and I'm on the button with pocket aces. I think I have a lot of options here in terms of flatting, re-raising small, obviously not folding, but I felt that at the time, under the gun was super strong, and was likely just going to go with it. He didn't have quite as many chips as me as well, so I felt like his under the gun range was going to be even more likely to just get it in. So I actually just jam, and under the gun does call. The next player folds, and we're up against pocket kings. And yeah, we win it on a 9-7-3, brick ace on the river just for good measure, and over 800k at this point. So sitting with a hair over 50 blinds here, 850k, the cutoff opens to 35k, and the button calls. Now, the cutoff's been pretty darn active and has opened on my blind a lot, and so far I've been pretty much out of the way. I think I look like I might be a little bit fed up with him at this point, but I'm in the big blind with ace king offsuit, and so I just make it 155k. I think actually at the time that there's a decent chance he's just gonna kind of rep it in, but also that he might just continue super wide. The cutoff does in fact 4-bet jam for 424k. Button folds. I obviously snap it in there, basically beating him into the pot, and he has ace 9 offsuit. However, the board is 6, 4, deuce, 3, giving some chop possibilities, 9. So he just banks it on the river. Very important pot where I could have been over $1 million, but is what it is. I've obviously gotten lucky a couple times this day already and on previous days, and this is just kind of the life we're living on day 3 of the monster stack. So I have chipped up a little bit here and there, most likely getting some 3-bet jams through or something like that just got folds. We're now at the 10k, 20k blind level with a 3k ante. I have 700k in my stack, and I decided to open the hijack with king 10 offsuit to 40k. Now it's a little bit wide, but I felt like the blinds had been pretty tight at this point, and it wasn't going to be too bad here. So the small blind does actually call, and we go heads up to a flop, which is ace 6-4 rainbow. He checks. I decide to bet a little bit down from my pre-flop sizing to 30k, and he calls. The turn is a jack, which is one of the cards I was planning to barrel on because I do pick up a gut shot. He checks again. I bet 80k, and he calls again, which I think is pretty bad at this point. I don't think we are really getting a lot of folds. He could certainly slow play sets. He has a decent amount of the weaker ace X in his range, I believe. So on the river jack, which I also think is a pretty bad barrel card, I just decided to give it up when he checks to me. So I check behind. He shows ace 8 offsuit, and that's going to be good. So knocked down a couple pegs here, but didn't lose too much given that had to toss the double barrel in there. In this next hand, we've moved up in blinds once again to 12k, 24k with a 4k ante. I've got 550k in my stack or so. I'm effectively on the button because the button is dead or away from the table or something like that. And I've got 9-6 of spades, and I decided to bump it up to 50k. The big blind, who I consider to be a competent pro, calls, and the flop comes down 7-6-3 with 2 hearts. He checks, and I decided to bet 55k. I guess it's mostly an equity denial bet because most people are not going to fold any better hands here, and I'm not really expecting to get called by substantially worse, although there are some like pair plus draw type combos that I do beat, and flush draws too. But he does call. The turn is a king, and he checks. This is a pretty good barrel card, so I considered barreling to plan to triple, but I decided to check behind, play it a little slower, and try to operate from some showdown value here. The river, however, is an offsuit 6, and he checks to me. Now when he checks, I don't expect him to really have a lot of super strong hands. I don't really expect him to ever have a flush because actually I lied and it wasn't an offsuit 6, it was a 6 of hearts. I decided to size a little bit bigger than I might normally just because I wanted to make it look like I could have some bluffs here and probably get called by a 7 reasonably often. So I bet 160k. He tanks a long time. Somebody ends up calling a clock on him, and he calls pretty quickly after that, and my hand is good. Didn't show what he had, but kind of assume it was a 7x type of hand. So still at the 12k, 24k blind level, I have about 680k in my stack, and the cutoff, who is the guy from the ace king versus ace 9 hand where he 4-bet jammed ace 9, he open jams 55k. And I'm in the big blind, and it's just one of those things where when people jam this sizing, you kind of have to wonder, like, would they really ever do this with aces? Would they ever do this with kings? Would they even ever really do it with like queens, jacks, 10s? Like maybe 10s and below. But I expect it to be a lot of small pocket pairs. I expect it to be a lot of like, you know, just random stuff where he's just trying to take it down. He's definitely a little bit on tilt with just kind of how things have been going. It's important to note that he was up over $1 million for a while after winning the ace 9 against ace king hand versus me. And he's now down to just 550k. So this is all going through my head. I peel my first card, which is a queen, and I'm already thinking to myself, man, there's going to be a lot of cards where I probably should be calling off here. I just didn't think that he had a lot going on. However, I peel another queen, and obviously it's a snap call now. He does in fact have pocket 5s, and the board is ace 10, 4, x, something like that. And I get to finally stack this player, which frankly probably felt a little bit better than it should have. But finally over $1 million for the first point in the day, and that's a pretty good mark. I think it's the first time I've ever been over $1 million chips in a World Series event. So pretty big achievement there for me, and definitely felt good. So we are now at the 15k, 30k blind level with a 5k ante. We've ditched the 1k chips, which is just absolutely bonkers to think about, and the big blind is double the starting stack of this event. So we're now down to like the final 6 or 7 tables. The money's very real. I think there's probably like roughly 10k locked up or something like that, and $1 million is in sight. So every decision is sort of magnified, and I looked back at this hand and kind of was a little bit worried that I might have made a mistake, but thinking about it some more, I'm not really sure I can really do much else just based on the stack sizes in play. So like I said, I have 1.3 million. I open ace-10 offsuit under the gun to 65k, but it's also important to note that most of the rest of the day we are somewhere between 6 and 7 handed for the most part, just with tables breaking and everything, people busting. So this isn't that crazy under the gun. The big blind gets it folded all the way around to him and jams it in for 300k, not even 244k. He jams in 244k, and it's sort of unfortunate because he's pretty tight, but at this point he's at that stack depth where I think he just kind of has to go with a lot of hands. That being said, I don't think people are rejamming super light with just 8 bigs just because they don't really expect an under the gun player to raise fold to that. So I kind of just side call it in there, not expecting to be ahead that often, but expecting him to just go with a lot of his mid and small pocket pairs. Unfortunately, we're up against ace-jack and not really in good shape. Just going to have to lose this hand, and kind of is what it is. So every hand prior to this was on the same table. I was developing reads, I was building, rapport with players, and overall just getting used to dynamics, right? We have people busting, people coming in, but ultimately you get to know certain players. But my table finally breaks. It's going to be that time. We are down to just six tables left, I think. And I've got about $1 million at the 20k, 40k level with a 5k ante. Under the gun opens to 80k, and I'm in no position with pocket kings. And I think at this stack depth, it's tempting to 3-bet small, but I felt that against under the gun, it was going to be better to just rip it in. It is about 25 bigs, but I think this is fine. I could also make a case for flatting at this depth, and you could probably make a case for flatting everything actually. But I did decide to just jam. Folded around to him, and he actually snap called with ace king, and the board was just like, very much in my favor with 10, 4, 3. Queen, I guess, gives him a gutter, but river's just another queen. So a bit of a sweat on that paint card, but we do hold double and sit on just about 2 million. Now from this point onward, there's a lot of small hands, a lot of kind of jabs being thrown back and forth. It's very clear that the level of play at this point in the tournament is much higher than it's been throughout, and I'm gonna have to take some thin spots. So I just kind of want to preface this hand by saying that because I've posted hands like this before, I've talked about hands like this before, and I think it's very easy to be results oriented about what happens in it. And I just want to preface by saying that I'm not really disappointed with how I played this hand at all. And even looking back on it, I think there's opportunities to play it differently, but I still don't dislike it. Now, obviously, you can still disagree, and I look forward to reading the comments about it down below. Leave me some of those. But yeah, with all that preamble out of the way, let's just get into the hand. We're sitting at 30k, 60k blinds with a 10k ante. Absolutely insane. I have about 2.4 million, so I'm sitting pretty with 40 blinds. And the button, who's been very, very active, opens to 130k. The small blind, who has been 3-betting pretty frequently in the last few orbits, definitely think he's capable of getting out of line here. He makes it 390k. And I'm in the big blind with pocket nines, which feels like the hand of the tournament because I've gotten it several times. I've gotten it in several times. I've both won and lost with it. I definitely think there are options here. I think calling is an interesting one, but I wasn't really a fan of it because there are so many boards that are going to be very difficult to play, and I definitely am not getting the odds to just straight up set mine. That being said, this hand performs very, very well against a wide 3-betting range, and I felt that he was going to have a lot of folds here. Now, that makes jamming this hand pretty good as an option, although I will say that it's kind of turning this hand into a bluff because most of the hands that he'll call off with either have us, crushed or flipping. So it's not exactly like I'm turning it into a bluff, but it's almost like that. But at the end of the day, I just decided that there was too much out there for me to not rip my stack in. Even though I've got 40 bigs, I can't play the rest of the tournament super protectively. I've got to play aggressively, try to chip up. There's still, 50-ish people left, and I'm not going to win the tournament by folding a bunch, basically. So I do decide to jam it in there. It folds back around to the small blind, who effectively beats me into the pot with pocket kings. So, you know, you can scoff about my reads if you want and say, oh, he's never doing this or that. But in my mind, it's still kind of just a cooler that he has a hand at the very top of his range that he 3-bets. An ace high board comes down, and I do have a backdoor straight possibility, but no help on the turn means I'm drawing just to a 9, and the river's a brick as well. So Busto in 47th place, and finally get on the scoreboard for the summer. I finally made a day 2, managed to parlay it into a day 3, and make a cash worth $19,145. So I was pretty happy about this. I'm guessing some of my backers were even happier than me to finally see me get on the scoreboard here. And for a brief moment in the summer, I was actually even. I was effectively up like $3,000 on the package. Ended up firing a Venetian 3500 that had a gigantic overlay at the time that I registered it, although I think they actually met the guarantee in the end. But I busted that, and I played the main event. So I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do about the main event, if I'm just going to do some highlight hands or go through most of the hands like I did with this tournament, the Monster Stack. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. Also leave me a comment, let me know what you thought about this video. Leave me a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm going to be streaming over on Twitch a little bit over the next few days. Probably going to be announcing that mostly on Twitter, so if you're not following me there, you should. And come hang out whenever I start streaming. Thanks guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, cheers.
This is a tiny ball.
And here's us.
On the kitty table.
Yeah.
Like, no, it happens all the time, you know?
Sir?